I'm fourth generation here on our family dairy, Breda Family Farms.
You got to wake up early in the morning, you got to come to work every day.
Kids think that they really think they want to be a vet until it comes down to it, and then they don't actually really want to do it. And I think that it's okay.
Well, there's not an egg shop, there's not a farm that doesn't have a welder.
The best part about my job is really helping people.
My educational background is on-the-job training.
California agriculture drives the state's economy, grossing over $500 billion a year. From logging and fishing on the North Coast to the lush landscapes and nursery crops of Southern California, agriculture encompasses more than just the farmer. Through this series, you will be introduced to the unsung heroes of the agriculture industry. Agriculture education is cultivating careers. This episode, Enology.
So my name is Renee Graves. I started with Ketchum Estate Winery about 10 years ago. And my official title on my business card is Director of Happiness. However, what it really translates into is I do absolutely everything. So, an official, if we were an official business model, it would be like the COO. So I run everything from the vineyard, oversee the vineyard management aspect, to the wine sales, to making sure everything goes in bottle correctly. So when I have a good team of outsourced people that help get it from A to B, but that's what I get to do. So my educational background is I started taking classes at the junior college when I was in high school for a couple of reasons. One was I didn't do so great my freshman year, so I was making up credits. But in addition to that, I just was finding that while I was still in high school, I was enjoying taking a couple of courses through the junior college. So beyond that, I then transferred to Sonoma State, and along the way, I had to work my way through college. And so right out of high school, I picked up a job at a custom crush facility out in Grayton, and while I was working there, it was a fantastic company run by a couple of small families, and they really put a high value on education. So the deal was that any wine-related course I wanted to take, they would pay for the course materials and the actual course. So although my degree is in business administration, I took as many wine-related courses as I possibly could. Well, I just grew up around it. I grew up here in Healdsburg and spent enough time away to realize that Healdsburg was really, where I wanted to live and grow a family. And so being that I worked my way through a winery while I was in college, and then went away for a while. When I came back, I got a job as the operating manager for a winery out in Dry Creek Valley. And what was neat about that specific winery, it's called Kivera Vineyards, is during the course of time while I worked there, they went through the whole biodynamic farming process. And so that really, really gave me like a want to kind of dig deeper into the vineyard part of the wine business. And so when I came on with Ketchum Estate, it really was good for me to have the vineyard background as well. So I don't exactly have main tasks of the job that are very specific. Instead, it's really pretty broad. Because I have my hands in everything from the vineyard to the selling of the wine to the production part of the wine, I kind of spread over all ways. I also am responsible for making sure the finances of the winery stay going and in place. So it just kind of is all aspects from, every, the entire business spectrum of what it takes to run a winery and a vineyard. So sometimes it's tasting wine with folks and trying to get them to buy it. Sometimes it's, figuring out why, one area of the vineyard won't grow right. I think my favorite part about my career is It really, like, getting to express ourselves through making wine, like, people really enjoy what we do, the end product, but also knowing that we're doing it in a way that, you know, I get to help make decisions and decide that, you know, several years back we stopped using Roundup. Like, I get to help push us towards being more sustainable, and we're now certified sustainably farmed, and knowing that I can make good decisions about where the winery is going as far as the environment's concerned, but also still producing a really top-notch wine that people like to buy from me. So communication is definitely one of the key skills that I use every day, whether it's from writing emails to, you know, talking to people on the phone to you know, just keeping the ball rolling, you know, making sure that the vineyard management team understands what we need to do in the vineyard next, or having them, you know, come in and tell me what areas need additional work. But that is definitely one of those key things that is so important. Sales are a huge part. Like, sales, that's another, like, really big component of, and I guess being confident in our product, being able to sell it is another big one. When we were not in the situation we were in, it would involve me, you know, starting my day usually via, you know, checking emails and, you know, going through those, you know, tasks of just following up on, you know, people's wine orders, or answering people's questions about wines, or working on, you know, selling people grapes, that kind of stuff, just, you know, general email correspondence. And then every day, honestly, is just so different. During harvest time of year, it starts with me out here in the vineyard. So we usually start picking at like 2 a.m. And then, you know, pick through a small lot of grapes, and then I go over to the crush facility. We process the grapes there, and then kind of starts that whole process. This time of year, during harvest time, I typically spend a chunk of a number of days at the winery just dealing with the fermentation of the grapes and checking in with our consulting winemaker, a lovely lady named Tammy. And then it just kind of goes from there, I guess. And some days it's like I'm packing wine boxes and dropping off wine for deliveries. It's a little bit of everything. So the couple of the other things that do happen that change, you know, throughout the years is just taking the wine from, you know, grape all the way through the winemaking process and getting it into bottle. So usually, you know, we harvest, usually late August, early September, we do the harvest, get all the grapes processed, put them in barrel, and our wine sits in barrel for about 18 months. And through that whole process, every like 6 to 8 weeks, we actually are going through and tasting them. And during that time period, the cellar staff is also working with the barrels and doing just cellar work and topping them up to make sure there's no oxygen getting into the wine. And then usually sometime around January or February, we start getting ready to actually bottle the wines. And so that is a long process of just making sure all the wine blends are correct and we really like them. And just the whole going through the whole process of ordering all the materials. So I guess that's another skill that I probably touch on more than I realize, is there's a lot of organizational stuff. I use Excel like nobody's business to keep all of my stuff sorted, whether it's tracking how many tons of grapes we're picking, or, you know, the different wine blends that we have, or barrel lots, and figuring out, you know, when we're getting ready to do bottling, ordering our bottling materials, and just kind of making all those pieces come together. So I touched on that a little bit, but so essentially, we will come in and we'll harvest the grapes, and what we'll do is we'll start harvesting them when they're ready. So our winemaking consultant, her name is Tammy Collins, she and I will come through and we will literally go down and sample the grapes, meaning as we're walking down the vineyard row, we're actually picking individual berries off of each cluster. And simply sticking them actually in a Ziploc bag. And essentially then what we'll do is we will then take them, and we have a refractometer which measures the sugar, or the brix, which is basically the sugar, to see if the ripeness is ready or not. We're also looking for if the seeds are brown and the skins are soft enough, and so just in the overall flavor of the grapes as well. So we'll do that, and once we determine the grapes are ready, we will have our vineyard crews come in. We've used the same, one of the great things about working for a small winery is you really can use the same people for years and years and years. So we've had the same vineyard management crew in here for the last 8 years, and so it's kind of nice because it's a lot of the same people that I see out in the community, a lot of people that I see year after year that are coming out here to harvest our grapes for us. So we'll go through the whole harvest process, but we pick just by vineyard block and only when it's really ready. And so it might be 4 or 5 different times that we come in and pick the vineyard here. And so there's only about 10 acres worth of grapes here. So in total, in a normal year, there'll be about maybe 60 tons worth of grapes that we will harvest. Some of those I sell, and then some of those we keep for the Ketchum Estate wine brand. And we only do our Pinot Noir here, so we're also overseeing a couple of different vineyards that also we do a Viognier, a Chardonnay, and then also a Cab. And so those vineyard locations are at different spots, so we're also keeping tabs on those. So we'll harvest and then bring everything into a custom crush facility, which a custom crush facility is kind of neat. It's like a co-op. There's about 10 different wineries in there, and we basically pay to rent the space for the equipment, the cellar staff, and all of that. So it's a nice way for a small winery to be able to make wine without investing in a winery ourselves, like the actual production side of the facility. So once we do the harvest part and we have the grapes in the cellar and we've gone through the whole fermentation cycle, everything goes to barrel, and then from barrel we have multiple different barrel companies that we work with, and kind of it changes the wine depending on what kind of barrels they go into. And then from there it's usually about 18 months out, and then we end up blending the different barrels together to make different wines, and then we put it in bottle. And for us, the bottling is kind of a fun process. It's actually a huge, like the back of a semi-truck that's been re-outfitted with a bottling line. So it's a mobile bottling company. So it's another thing that is outsourced. And so they come in and we bottle the wine through them. And then we get to go out on the road and sell it.
All right, there you go.
Okay, so I think that some of the important things to think about if you're in high school, a senior interested in the wine industry, would be exploring the wine industry from all angles and taking as many classes that span all areas of the wine industry. So whether it being, you know, on the viticulture end, the production end, the marketing and business end. And I think that just apart from the winemaking end, if you do go specifically into winemaking but you don't have a good understanding of where your grapes are coming from, then you're missing out a whole big, on a big picture of it. And similarly, if you're, interested in making wine, you still want to know about how that wine's going to be sold. It's easy to make the wine, but not, you still have to sell the wine. So I think that it's good to have a broad spectrum of classes that you take that are about the wine industry.
Thank you to those who made Season 1 of Cultivating Careers possible.